Did you know, Paul Thurrott? Did you know that my kid does not have school today?
No. It's what's a Thursday? Why?
Fall break. It was a
Fall
shock to
break.
many people in this household, including myself. My wife
Uh,
obviously knew, but I
yeah, I routinely I've talked about this. We talk about this every year. Like my annual rant about Good Friday being off, which doesn't make any sense. The other day, because we walk the dog at the same time every day, so we see kids out waiting for the bus or whatever with their parents. And the other I don't know if it was this Monday or last Monday, whenever it was. I think it's last Monday because this Monday was Columbus Day, which is another one, like whatever. And then he's like, why aren't the kids here today? And it's like, oh, it's a Jewish holiday. Okay. Do we are 90% of the kids in the area Jewish? I mean, like, why does everyone have it off? Like, but I live in a state where they'll take school off at the drop of a hat, you know? Like the weather said it might snow. I think we need to be cautious here, you know? Everyone gets the day off. It's crazy.
there was
Anyway,
a Surface
these things
event yesterday too.
these things don't impact me anymore, but
Just reel that one. Whatever. So
yeah.
I'll give you my 25-cent take. I think you might be in the same vein. Watch the whole event, read everything that was announced. If you are in the market and you're considering any of this, the only thing that should maybe be of approach is the Pro 9. The laptop 5 is fine, but there's better options exist. You are crazy if you buy the Studio 2 Plus for $4,300 plus for an 11th gen and 3000 mobile series GPU, which is absurd.
I know. I don't know what they're doing.
And then the whole thing just ended. Like I'm sitting there like, all right, maybe
that
they
was
left.
the thing. That was the joke I made on Twitter. I'm like, this is how the Empire Strikes Back ended. What's going on?
Yeah.
That was the end?
Yeah.
It's like, listen, Panos, we need you to hold that heartfelt beat for a moment, and we're going to fade to black. It's going to be amazing. And everyone was like, wait, was that it?
Yeah, it's like, here comes the new thing that wasn't leaked or whatever. And nope.
I thought that event was terrible. I think they're terrible. I think the products they make are terrible. I'm getting tired of this crap. And I don't understand. I laid this all out in Windows Weekly. Like, Panos Panay was interviewed by Axios and described the 3 reasons why Surface exists, and it does not fulfill any of those things. I don't understand what the point of this is anymore. And by the way, look, people make fun of Apple or criticize Apple because they come out with the same, like, another year goes by, the iPhone looks exactly the same. Another year goes by, the Apple Watch looks exactly the same. Yeah, but you know what happens? Another year goes by and they release a new product. Like these guys, you have no idea if they're going to release anything new, when, what, why. I mean, why wasn't Surface Laptop rev last year? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't there an AMD chip? Why? Now that there's only an Intel chip in the Surface Laptop, does it not support Microsoft Pluton? Because Intel doesn't support Microsoft Pluton, by the way. That's why. Why is the ARM version of the Surface Pro 9 the only one that supports cellular connectivity?
Mm-hmm.
And why the hell do they ship a $4,500 desktop thingamajig that nobody needs, that is using previous gen technology, and they haven't changed the design of any of these products even by a freaking millimeter?
Here's my conspiracy theory. This is founded on nothing, which makes it perfect, but it's probably entirely true.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if the guts of the Surface Studio 2 Plus are what the mythical Surface Book 4 were going to be. And it's like, crap, we have all these parts. What are we going to do with them? Let's just put them in a Surface laptop or Studio. And
oh boy. Okay, that's depressing. But
I have no idea if that's true, but it makes me feel better.
I give them credit. I spent several years complaining about USB-C not happening. Thunderbolt 4. Thunderbolt 3 probably is when it started. And, those problems are gone, but there's still so much to complain about. And I just don't understand. I don't understand. But, hey, at least these guys are running Windows now, too. So what could go wrong there? Anymore.
Yeah, I was really... That was... Maybe it's why they paired it up with Ignite. Like they knew this thing was a bad event, and they're just like, we'll just put it back to back with Ignite, so it kind of gets washed out with all the noise.
What does Apple do when they're going to have a bad event? They don't have an event.
Yeah, they just drop some
release
PRs.
The products. Just release the products. You can have nice little videos of each device, which they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just release that. I don't need to be reminded what a terrible presenter he is. I don't need to be reminded how terrible these updates are. Like this, it's so awful being confronted by this. Like this is what it is so depressing, and it doesn't make any sense. Like I just don't know why they bother.
You know what it feels like? It feels like in the early days, this was like a passion project, a hobby, if you will, and like everybody was real excited to work on it. And now, because it's 10 years later, it's like, oh God, we got to build another laptop. So we'll just do what we got to do just to make sure it's keep moving, and that's it.
Yes. So the laptop was something they resisted for years. Like that's the most obvious product to make, right? They didn't come out with a laptop until several years into this, but I look, the history of this, you understand better than anybody. I mean, this thing was born out of Apple envy. And there was a terrible tyrant at Microsoft who convinced everybody that Apple was coming and multi-touch is stealing everything and mobile devices are the future. And the thing people forget is that were Surface successful initially, as Microsoft expected, the successful device would have been an iPad-like device running on ARM and would not have run Windows desktop apps. Like that was the expectation. And we know that because they had a, $900 million write-down associated with making too many Surface RTs, right? Because that's the one they thought was going to sell. They thought that was the market. They thought that's where it was going. So, okay, whatever. People make mistakes. I don't mean, we don't have to hold that against them forever, but I think people forget that. And now I guess we're just making computers. Yeah. And I like that Surface Pro has found its niche, but I would remind people to go back and look at the original Surface Pro and see how laughably terrible it is. It's like an inch thick, 16:9 display. I don't remember if that one still had a one-position kickstand. I know the RT did, but I think it did because one of the things they kept talking about was how perfect the webcam was aligned at that one angle. You know, now we have technology. You know, cameras can follow you and stuff, but that took 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, so when they moved to a tri-position kickstand and then eventually the variable change there, that webcam was no longer correctly aligned. And that's just a reality of this thing. It has to lean back because it's on a kickstand, so the webcam's looking over here somewhere. I don't know. I just don't understand why this thing exists. And by the way, like you probably, actually, I kind of like the products, as goofy as that is.
Oh yeah.
But the problem is I can't recommend them to anybody. I was just talking about this on Windows Weekly. Like, you know, not that anyone has ever come to me and said, "Oh, Paul, I know you're kind of a Microsoft guy. I was thinking about buying a Surface." Is a conversation I've never had with anybody, but family member, a friend, someone who's not in our space, coming to me with that question, I'd be like, absolutely not. And I would just feel nervous about the reliability of that device and its long-term viability.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Yeah, the laptop 5 is, I think, the one that like hurts because it's like, okay, the Pro 9, whatever. The laptop was always just like the vanilla grade. This is what you get. But then,
it's a solid laptop.
But the problem is it's expensive for what you pay for. Fine, you're paying a premium for it, but there are notably significantly better options from HP, Dell, and Lenovo out there.
Which, by the way, is one of the three things that Panos said is why Surface exists, so that there's high-end PC alternatives to what Apple offers with the Mac. And sorry, you can't say that without laughing. Have you seriously never heard of a ThinkPad X1?
Yeah.
Have you seriously never heard of a Dell XPS? Are you telling me that you've never heard of an HP Spectre, Z-Series, EliteBook, Dragonfly? Are you kidding me? You're telling me that A, there aren't high-quality PC alternatives to what Apple does, and B, that there aren't awesome designs, awesome innovation occurring out in the industry without Microsoft's involvement whatsoever, other than, hey, we have these new features coming in Windows you can take advantage
Dell XPS 13
by the way,
is a fantastic.
That's how this works.
Yep.
I don't mind that they exist, except I don't understand why they exist.
Right. Like, I think that
they've lost the point. Yeah. Right. You should be able to look at something. If you can't explain something, I had this conversation with Richard Campbell about .NET, which is like a hard thing. Like, tell me, what's the elevator pitch for this thing? Right. And I actually, the first question I asked was, could you even come up with an elevator pitch? He says, yeah, I could do that. Richard's a smart guy, you know. But this is technical people talking to technical people. Like, what's the elevator pitch for Surface? That isn't a lie and or wrong. Well, we need a high quality alternative to Apple. No, we have that. So what else do you got? Well, we have to inspire other PC makers to make their products better. I see. What have you? All you've done is shown them what not to do. How have you inspired them?
The only thing I can think of right now is that Microsoft has to put money into ARM because nobody else will, and if they don't, then obviously their OEMs are not going to even take a risk on it.
No,
that's a whole different conversation though than what Surface is.
Yeah, and it's not like we can claim that Surface has done a particularly good job of pushing ARM either, right?
Well,
I mean, if you think like in the sad list of the best ARM PCs of all time, they are HP's and Lenovo's, and I don't know, not Dell, but they are third-party devices. And yeah, I mean, look, there are different parts of Microsoft. There are different relationships and things going on, but one of the things that has really, as much as Apple, doing what it did was, damaging, one of the things that really exacerbated that problem was Intel not adopting thin, light designs that are fanless, etc. They have belatedly moved to this with their hybrid, architecture that you see now in the Core 12th gen and now again in the 13. But it's early days, and what we've learned is what we've always the same problem we've always had with Intel is their low-end chips are garbage. So by going to this hybrid architecture, now all of a sudden the U-series chips, which by the way previously shipped in like 90-something% of all PCs, are so terrible. We've moved up to PC. We need more power. So it's going to take a while. Yeah. And this is the problem. Mike, it's not like Surface wasn't asking this because Surface is not really a thing, but the Windows team has been begging Intel for years to do this. Which, yes, you're right, is why they went. Well, and why you would support someone like AMD, except that you're not, because you don't have an AMD laptop anymore. Yeah. Which I just don't. It's a weird place to be in.
Yeah.
Weird place.
Well, if that wasn't enough
I just went off on a rant on this. It's so upsetting to me.
Yeah. If that wasn't enough news.
I want it to make sense. I want to be able to point to like, yeah, there you go. You did it. Look at that. Instead, it's like dual screens.
They're also rebranding Office to Microsoft 365 because.
Of course they are. I mean, this has been going on for years, right?
I mean, this one's the least surprising.
I wonder if that's just because Office is such a generic name. It makes it hard to fight back if other companies use the word, and like Windows.
Yeah.
But because I think in the case of Windows, like Microsoft can't trademark Windows; they have to trademark Microsoft Windows, right?
Yeah.
So if the product is Microsoft Office, which it is, I just call it Microsoft 365. I mean, the move to Microsoft branding is something that's been going on for a long time, and by the way, it plays into the Surface story, as you know. Because at one point they put the Microsoft logo on the back instead of the Surface logo, right? And they moved to that. It's a Microsoft product, right? Surface is a sub-brand. So I guess we're all comfortable with this. I don't know. I mean, I think people really associate with the Office brand, though. So normal people, right? Mainstream.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Microsoft announced a bunch of stuff yesterday at Ignite. The one thing they didn't announce was the availability of a public preview of Loops. It is technically in private preview, but if you want to go download it, you can get on a waitlist. If you want to download the new Designer app, you can go get on a waitlist. If you want to get on a waitlist, Microsoft has them for you.
Right. So, last year, 2021, they had. It must have been 2020 into 2021. They had 2 Ignites. Remember? I think. And it was like, okay, I don't know why and now we have 1 Ignite again, and everything they announced is like, it's coming in the future.
Yeah.
Sometime. But how long have we been waiting for Loop? I feel like it's been like 2 years plus.
Yeah, at least.
Clearly, this is a complex issue, and I don't mean to make a joke about hard computer science problem, but I mean, clearly this is literally a hard thing for them, right?
Yeah.
I equated this actually to Stardock. Yesterday in this weekly, I was talking about how your company, which is not Microsoft, can ship like this new start menu that does all this stuff. And if Microsoft was to look at that and say, okay, we're going to do every single thing that Start 11 does, it would take them 2 years to do it because they just have like a kind of a higher bar that they have to deal with because their customer base is so much bigger and more diverse.
Yep.
It's just harder, and I feel like that's what Loop is like. companies like Notion can ship this thing, and it's fine because they reach whatever the audience is, and it's probably millions and millions of people.
Right.
For Microsoft to actually do this, for this to be, the bar is really high here. This is basically the future of productivity if it works, right? This is
Right.
something that will subsume and replace Word and Excel and PowerPoint and OneNote and whatever else. I mean, it's I think it's to me on the outside, it's like I don't understand what's going on here. Why can't I see this? And I think for them, it's like we got to get this right.
Yeah, which is fine. It would just be. I think the disappointment comes because, to your point, Microsoft's been talking about bringing this to market for years, and they even announced Loop components inside of Teams. But like, that's not what.
Nope.
Like, here's the scenario that I want to solve,
app.
Paul. Like, I have a couple critical spreadsheets that get updated by accounting and HR once a month. I want to have a loop of just that content data inside of like a monthly report.
Embedded, yeah, exactly.
And so they update it on their spreadsheet, and it's updated inside of loops for me. I can see it.
It's almost like an Olay technology from the 90s, except distributed, which of course it is. And yeah, I look, there are really simple uses for this. Mary Jo and I are using Notion for the Windows Weekly Notes. It's great. It's simple. And then there are really what you're describing is kind of on the way to a much more complex thing where you could have all kinds of data types and different things, and it's feeding from different places. And also this stuff can be consumed in a bidirectional format. Like even someone who doesn't use Loop, the app, can still consume Loop components in Outlook or in Teams or wherever else in Office. And it's a big engineering project, apparently.
Oh,
apparently bigger than we.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you're taking a potential part of a spreadsheet, like cells that you can just rip out and drop them somewhere. Like I get it. Like it's tough. I just wish that the expectation they would have set is like, hey, this is going to take us a while, not because remember it started as fluid components, and now we're 3 years later and we still can't use them in a big way. So
yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, this is almost devil's advocate position, but maybe the delays hint at how big of a deal this is.
Yeah, very well could be.
Maybe that's it.
And if you want to give Microsoft more money, they give you multiple ways yesterday, including like a team. It's not Teams Pro. It's like Teams Premium that includes live transcriptions and translations and.
Oh, actually, you forgot the major feature of this product, which is that you pay for it. Yes. I think I think what we're seeing is, there are all these different. Is the pandemic over, right? Like, it kind of had a soft ending, I guess, but. Nothing to me says the end of the pandemic more than Microsoft is starting to charge for stuff again, right?
Yep.
All these freebies they gave away when we were all stuck at home thinking we were going to be there for 2 weeks have turned into paid products. And of course they have. But it's kind of brutal the way it all happened at once. It's like the stuff that's semi-exciting that we're interested in, it's coming. But we know what we do have now. We're like, right now, it's this stuff you can pay for. And if you look at the per user price on some of these things, oh my God, it's crazy.
I know Paul's very excited about Teams avatars. That's what he's always wanted in life.
You know what I kind of like? We didn't talk about the Meta thing, did we? The metaverse.
No.
So, Microsoft, Satya Nadella showed up and they showed off. Did they call it Office? They must have called it Microsoft. Actually, I think they called it Office. It was the Office web apps, which is just a 2D experience running in the metaverse. Briefly talked about Xbox Cloud Gaming, which again, 2D experience, just whatever. That's fine. But it was the Teams integration with whatever Meta has for the Horizon workspace, or whatever they call it. These kind of cartoony avatars and blah, 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 whatever. I think this is all nonsense personally. Of course I do. But I have to say, the UIs I saw that Meta was doing for this productivity stuff and for Teams integration, I thought that looked nice. Like I thought that would
Did you see the Teams app they showed off? It looked like I tweeted this out. First off, it has to be a mock-up because it looks great, and I'm like, this looks way better, way better than the desktop.
So in another thing that people will have forgotten about, when Microsoft was marketing .NET, and they were going to do like Hailstorm, the .NET My Services stuff, and .NET Passport, and whatever else they had these like videos. This is what it's going to be like, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. And all we got in the end was like that stupid MSN Explorer client and, garbage. But this is what that looks like a modern version of that. I hope they can pull that off because honestly, it looks good in 2D. Like I think this would be nice on a computer screen. It's interesting. Like I didn't think we really had anywhere to go with UI in like a 2D display, whatever. But I thought that looked nice.
You look
I
nice.
freaking hate Meta, like hate it. Hate it. But, where else am I going to get my crazy uncle's political views? So you got to give him a little credit for that. Don't want that guy in my house. I mean,
What about in your metaverse?